It was the hardest 2 months of my life. My brain has already blocked out so much of that trauma. Phew, take a deep breath. Let's get this over with. Okay, I'm finally doing this. I've been putting this off way too long, and I need to do it because I know that my body is likely storing emotions from the trauma. Like, even talking about it, I can feel my body starting to get tense. And I just need to get it out because I know that I've been trying to hold on to the memories in order to document and convey what actually happened so that other parents, other new parents especially, who have never encountered reflux or know about reflux or had experiences with babies with reflux, like, we were just totally shocked by the whole experience. And I'll explain in detail what happened, but I'm just gonna say I can't wait to have this video be over with because I feel like my body's storing it, being like, I need to record a video, I need to record a video, I need to let other parents know and help them so that they don't hopefully have to go through the mess and the confusion and the dark pit that I was in for basically a little over 2 months, like, straight. If you haven't been following along, I've been documenting the reality of what it's been like to become a first-time mother. First-time motherhood is not for the faint of heart, and especially if you had the experiences that we did, and I had postpartum depression as well, which also just made everything's just tied together. I don't even know how much of the reflux experience contributed to the postpartum depression. It probably magnified it and made it way worse, especially because I also have ADHD, and everything was just so shocking. And let alone, I just feel like we got all the hard cards all at once. Yeah, it was really difficult. You can look at my other videos to learn more about what it was really like. But overall, I just wanted to record these videos to help other soon-to-be parents and new parents, because I had no idea. My husband and I had no idea that these things could happen, that these challenges could come up. We didn't grow up around babies, and so it was all very, very hard to navigate. Of course, we have like friends we could ask, but every baby and experience, postpartum experience, everyone's different. So people like would give us advice and tips and, did you try this? Did you try that? Yes, we tried all the things. I'm taking a breather because I can feel my body, like I can feel my heart start racing just thinking about what happened. I am working through this, by the way, with my postpartum therapist. Praise God, because it was the hardest 2 months of my life. Let's get this over with. Okay, basically, what happened? I'm gonna skip all the details of the breastfeeding challenges, the sleep deprivation, the postpartum depression, anxiety. I'm just going to focus only on the one of many aspects that made it so challenging, which was the reflux. Not just normal baby reflux, which a lot of babies apparently have, which is when they spit up. They call it happy spitting. They don't really cry or are uncomfortable when they spit up. It's mostly just because they have like a flap. I can't remember the exact terms, but one of their flaps that's supposed to keep food down isn't fully developed yet. So that's something very important to know. Newborns have an underdeveloped digestive system and nervous system. So that means a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them, including ours, they are very, very gassy. They are grunting, crying because they can't get their gas out or their poops out, or they're just uncomfortable for whatever reason inside. They are crying a lot because they don't know how to regulate themselves. It was a combination of all of that. But for the reflux, we had basically a form of this reflux is called GERD, GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, I believe. It means that when your baby is spitting up, it's causing acid reflux, which is causing pain. And the way that they soothe that pain is by trying to feed even more. So what happens is their cues get mixed. And this is why it was so freaking confusing as a first time mom, because I'm reading like Dunstan baby language and like, these are the cues and this is when they're gonna be full. They'll show fullness cues. You can't overfeed a baby. Like all these different things. No, it was not our case because our baby was always giving hunger cues. This happened, I think it started happening around week 1.5 all the way to week 7.5-ish, week 8 maybe. My brain has already blocked out so much of that trauma. Whew. Take a deep breath. That I had to go back and look at past posts that I made in these Facebook groups for like reflux support groups. Man, I forgot to bring my water bottle. I should have brought my water bottle. Hopefully I make it through talking about all this. And I'm reading these past posts talking about how my newborn was non-stop screaming every time she was awake. If she was awake, she was either already hungry, so she was already crying, and then the way to soothe her hunger cues is by feeding her. But then because she has reflux and GERD, she's screaming while she's feeding. Otherwise, if she's not screaming while she's feeding, she's like soothing her reflux as she's feeding. But then as soon as we take the bottle away, she's like freaking out, like crying so hard because of hunger and or the pain of that she's experiencing, which she would arch her back, she would kick her legs, she would go really stiff and just like like constantly. And we didn't know that this was not normal. We were like, well, they say all babies cry, they're fussy, they're figuring out life. No, this is not normal. And so thank God I had a mom friend I was texting about, and I was like, oh my gosh, I do not know what's going on. And then she was the one who suggested it sounds like reflux, because I think they also went through something similar. And yeah, I was like in this Google rabbit hole. So I was already not sleeping, like barely sleeping, and like this reflux stuff just like added to that, because I was Googling, like AI searching, Reddit thread searching, Facebook group searching. I was searching for all the answers and what could it be, what is this, why is she grunting and making weird noises, and she sounds congested and she's wheezing, just all these like symptoms of GERD and reflux. And spitting up, she would like projectile spit up, which was also shocking, like literally like a fountain of spit up. Almost every time she was awake, she was like this, like screaming. And for me, I had already this pre-existing trigger before becoming a parent of like when babies are crying, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. I don't want the baby to like cry around me, because I just feel bad, like, that I'm making the baby cry, right? Like everyone wants a baby to be calm when you're holding them and like, oh, they like you. And then if they don't cry, you're implicitly thinking, oh, why don't they like me? And then as the mom, you're like, why doesn't my own baby like me? Like little things like that. And oh my gosh, I wasn't sleeping. I was already hormonally everywhere. My depression was like on full blast. I was very, very low. And then she would cue hunger. So she would like say, nah, nah, which is supposed to mean hunger. And so we were constantly like, oh, she's still hungry. But then we're like, this is a lot more than what's recommended for her age. At like a certain week mark, she's supposed to only have this amount of ounces. We're going way past that. But then every baby's different. Like some babies just do need more, and people say you can't overfeed a baby. So we were just so confused, like what's happening? Like why does she never seem full? She never seems to turn away, and then the screaming continues to happen. Oh, by the way, we couldn't get a pediatrician to look at her because we had just insurance stuff. We were transitioning insurances, trying to find a better pediatrician because our first one was very dismissive. But then the new pediatrician wouldn't see us until 2 weeks in, because we're like new patients. So 2 weeks, and I was just dying. Like every wake window I dreaded so much, because I was just so stressed from her crying, couldn't soothe her, didn't know what to do, tried all these different methods, pace bottle feeding, which is like horizontal, holding it horizontal, so it's not, the milk isn't coming in as fast, because when it's too fast, that's also what contributes to the reflux and them not knowing that they're full, that they're getting full. I ordered like extra slow flow nipples to also help with that. We used gas drops, baby probiotics. We did side lying feeding as well. So it's like, having them kind of lay on their side. That basically all the things that were suggested to help slow down and help with the reflux. Still, It was so difficult. And then I remember being so confused too, like what is actually working or helping or not? Because I still was stuck in this pre-baby mindset of like, I need to troubleshoot exactly what's going on in order to like fix the root cause. And this is just the truth of parenting, which I just couldn't wrap my head around until way later when my brain fog could clear enough for me to understand that oftentimes in parenthood, you're just not going to know exactly what's going on. It could be this, it could be that. This could be helping or it might be that. And you can't really specifically isolate until later on. But what your priority is just like doing whatever you can as you can to like stop the symptoms, like even though it's just a band-aid solution because you don't know exactly what's helping, just do all the things. And so I didn't know that mindset yet, so I was just so frustrated and confused and aggravated. What is actually working? I don't know what's going on. I'm so confused. Motherhood is so hard. I'm having a really hard time transitioning. This is so much harder than people warned us about, and not having consistent help or support, like just all the things. It was just so difficult. And the biggest thing is your baby is in pain or discomfort and crying, and they say like babies don't cry for no reason, so like figure it out. What can you do to like stop their crying? But the thing was, she just was always crying. And then I learned of colic, which is this term, that overall branch term used for babies who cry excessively for more than 3 hours a day. Initially, I thought 3 hours a day, like nonstop, like that's a lot of crying. Like this is when I was pregnant. I was like, that's a lot of crying. Poor parents who go through that. Like hopefully we don't. But I didn't realize colicky babies, it's not nonstop, it's total. And we definitely went over that. Oh my. It was probably double. I don't even know, but all I know is I was in a constant state of fight or flight because she was always crying, and I felt so terrible and confused and could barely function, could barely think straight, could barely heat up food, was not myself. It was just a terrible time. Okay, that's just how I'm gonna say it. Oh my gosh. And I was dying, and it was so hard to communicate. People who don't have reflux babies don't understand what it's like. So when I would describe like, oh, it's really hard. Like when people would ask, how is it going? Like just people have different experiences. And I didn't know how to articulate, I'm dying. People would say, oh, cute baby, congratulations. On the outside, I'm like, thank you. On the inside, I'm like, can you see me? I'm a zombie. I am not okay. Please help. But I didn't even know what I needed help with. Oh my gosh. So anyway, okay, this is enough ranting. I'm just gonna explain what we did. So we tried so many things, all those methods. Sometimes it would seem to help a little bit. Other times it wouldn't. It was just up and down, inconsistent. Symptoms would be worse one day, another day or another cycle wouldn't be as worse. Now looking back, what I didn't know as a new mom, it's like the wake windows, the overtiredness, the gassiness, all of it contributes to how your baby is feeling. So of course it was confusing to figure out because it's not like a controlled and then variable experiment that you can do, like a science experiment where you're like only everything else is controlled and there's only these few variables or one variable, therefore this is what's causing this difference. No, like with a baby, everything's changing, everything's inconsistent, everything's variable. So you just really don't know what's going on. So we took her to, I had heard good things about baby chiropractor, like a chiropractor in general, but one that does infant chiropractic care, which was interesting because I was like, wow, she doesn't even look like she's doing much, but our baby does look a lot calmer. To this day, I still don't even know if that really helped or not, but I mean, it seemed to relax her, so that was nice. And she did sleep a long stretch that day after we saw the chiropractor. So we went back like only 2 times just because we weren't like super sure about it. We just wanted to go to the pediatrician to see what she said once we could start seeing the pediatrician. But what I will say is, thanks to the chiropractor, we were able to identify she does have reflux. And that just, finally like confirmed my suspicions, because before that point I didn't even know if it was reflux. I was in these research rabbit holes, like it could be this or that or other, I can't even remember. It was just like so confusing. It could be anything. but the chiropractor helped give us more clarity to confirm, okay, she does have reflux. At least that eliminates so many other possibilities, and we could just focus on learning about what could help with the reflux. Thankfully, my research rabbit hole was not for nothing. I learned that you could take a dirty diaper to her pediatrician and they can check very quickly, like if there's microscopic blood, which would tell you that she's allergic or intolerant to some ingredient. She highlighted, they did a scan and there was for sure a lot of tension. So like working on chiropractic care along her spine and her head and her neck could also help with her digestive system. But it's like a chicken and egg situation. Like you don't really know, is a reflux causing that or is that causing the reflux? It could be both. We weren't super sure, and we were like, this feels very salesy. Like, you're selling us this package that we have to come for like 30 sessions, and it just feels like a lot. Like, why does it take 30 sessions to do this? So we just put that on pause. Nothing against chiropractic. I think I've seen chiropractic care, which is helpful, but for specifically the reflux, we were like, we don't know if this is the answer. We don't know if this is what's going to fix it, which it wasn't. As I'm talking about this, just know every baby is different. Every reflux case is different. So what worked for us may not work for you guys, but I'm just taking you through the process to let you know the chaos and the confusion is normal, and these are all the different things we try that maybe you want to try, maybe you want to consider, because you just never know what will address the problem. We took her finally into the pediatrician. She was so kind and understanding. I was still very delirious and just not myself and crying and very panicky because I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't slept. I don't even know who I am and what is going on. She prescribed Pepcid, which is this medication for babies with GERD to help reduce the pain when they do spit up and when they feed. That was a game changer, okay? Even though I was initially like hesitant because I'm like, that's not addressing the root cause, it's just managing the pain, but it made a huge difference because at least we could get more sanity. We were like, she's not constantly screaming, she's still crying and she's still fussy and still having trouble sleeping because she would get congested and be spitting up. And oh, that's the other thing is babies with reflux usually can't lie down flat because they spit up. Best practice is keeping them upright for about 30 minutes after feeding, which is also complicated when they have poops or pees or are sleepy, and you know, you're just like, how do I keep you upright when you have all these? Anyway, it was definitely a learning curve because I was like, there's just so much conflicting guidance and none of it seems to be working out. What I would have told that version of me is that's normal. There's a lot of conflicting guidance. Don't feel like you need to follow all of it. It's just not going to work. There's no one solution. I was looking for like, tell me what to do because I have no idea what I'm doing. The truth of the matter is there's just all this advice and you literally just have to like make it work however you can for your specific situation. But I didn't know it back then. So I was very, very confused. My husband said, I've never heard you say you're confused so much in your life. I'm like, I know. I feel like a crazy person. Reflux also disturbs baby's sleep, which also disturbs your sleep because they're uncomfortable with their own reflux. And so the Pepcid really helped, but it still didn't fix the problem. She was still crying constantly. We tried to, also another tip was to burp her throughout, but every time we removed the bottle, she would just freak out and cry. And now I know it was probably due to not the discomfort of the Pepcid, but more, or discomfort of the reflux, but more because she was crying because she was hungry and she didn't have a regulated nervous system. So she would freak out. And then, but by crying creates air intake, which makes the reflux worse. So I was constantly on edge, not just because her crying was triggering me, but because I knew her crying was contributing to the reflux. So I was always confused about what to do. Like, what else could I do? They say to burp midway throughout after every ounce, and then she would always be freaking out every ounce that I fed her. And then we were feeding her like 5 ounces, like 4 to 5 ounces, I can't remember, between 3 to 5 ounces every 2 to 3 hours. So that's a lot of crying. Okay, I can get through this. The other thing was, on top of the Pepcid, our doctor recommended if it is some kind of allergy or intolerance that maybe they're still not detecting, maybe it's some other ingredient, in her formula, because we had switched. This is another thing. I'm sorry this is taking so long to explain because I'm literally getting physically stressed. Switching formula was also a nightmare. So we tried different formulas thinking, oh, maybe this formula will work better, that formula will work better. We had like 3 different formulas we tried that were supposedly, organic and like healthy and recommended. They all still were causing issues, but it was hard to tell because it takes 2 weeks, up to 2 weeks, to fully have your baby adjust to new formula. So you could literally be dealing with the same issues for 2 straight weeks and not know that the formula is working or not until after that. Then our doctor recommended a hypoallergenic formula called Nutramigen, because that one is the cleanest, one of the cleanest in terms of if she does have like cow's milk protein intolerance or allergies or any other, sensitivities. That one should do the trick to help her not react. We got too excited and we just like cold turkey gave her the new formula without realizing we had to like slowly transition it, basically, which was also like so confusing. How do you like slowly transition 5 ounces when the scoops don't equal like even amounts? Okay, for example, if you want to give 4 ounces, you do 4 ounces of water and then 2 ounces of formula. But if it's like 5 or if it's like 3, if it's an odd number or even in between, because we were like not used to the mindset of a parent before having a baby, you're like, I don't want to waste, so you're trying to like be super accurate with how much you're like feeding, and you think it's supposed to be consistent every time, but it's not. We were just very confused. How do we scoop enough hypoallergenic formula and make sure, she's doing well and not have to wait those 2 weeks? We cold turkey gave it to her for 3 feed cycles. She freaked out. And I was like, oh my goodness, did we make another mistake? Because she is just going crazy, like arching back more than ever. Oh my gosh, I'm sweating talking about all this because it was just so intense, like how she was freaking out with the new formula. Her body is not used to it and she had trouble digesting and she was grunting and screaming and crying, and we were like, oh my goodness, should we just go back on the other formula? Thank goodness we stuck through it and she did get a lot better. However, here's the kicker: the hypoallergenic formula is so easy to digest that she pooped every feed, like a huge poop. And because what I mentioned before, you have to keep them, you should be trying to keep them upright for the reflux so that they're not spitting up and getting uncomfortable and grunting. We just couldn't figure out like how do we do this when she's pooping all the time. And then also now she's getting diaper rash, like not super serious, but her you could tell she was getting irritated down there. And then that was another problem to now figure out how to resolve was the diaper stuff. We were like, is this a yeast infection? Is this diaper irritation? Like, how do we resolve this? And, how do we figure out new systems when our brains are like not even functioning? It was just crazy because people would say, oh, use cloth wipes or use this kind of water or this kind of wipe and this kind of procedure, and it was just so overwhelming and so much. And I was like, oh my goodness, it's like playing whack-a-mole. You solve one issue, or you think you are kind of managing one issue here, and then another one pops up because of that. So that was just a huge struggle. I'm gonna fast forward because this is getting way too long. Okay, amongst my research, again, like talking to other moms, I was interestingly noticing that when my baby was sucking her bottle nipple, she was intaking a lot of air. Like I could hear air squeaking, and I heard that air intake could contribute to reflux. So one of the moms I connected with on Facebook told me, oh yeah, she definitely has like an upper lip tuck. You should definitely look into switching to a Dr. Brown's bottle or another bottle that could fit her lip better. And I was like, oh really? I didn't even think, I didn't want to like spend the money and spend the time trying all these different bottles to find out if it was the bottle or if one of them would work better. So thankfully I did have a Dr. Brown's bottle that someone had given me, but it kept leaking when we were using it. But we did notice, like, interesting. Like, it was actually my husband who noticed because he was more sane than I was. He was noticing that she does seem to do better with the Dr. Brown's bottle, even though we kept having the problem of leaking. Going back to my video on breastfeeding. Okay, sorry, I have to take off my jacket because I am literally sweating talking about all this. We can make it. Okay, we can make it through. I was like slowly piecing together these little pieces of the puzzle. Like, okay, interesting. Like, I've gotten comments that she does have an upper lip tuck that might be contributing, and that it's not normal for her lip to look like that, because I initially thought it was normal. The air intake is also something to pay attention to, and a Dr. Brown's bottle seems to be working better. And then at the same time, this occupational therapist reached out to me on Facebook, and she was so kind, because I was like losing it, and posted on one of these Facebook groups that I needed help. Like, I did not know what to do, and I was just about to give up. I was just like at my wit's end, like, oh my goodness, I don't know if I can keep going like this. I don't know what to do. I'm a crazy person. And this occupational therapist reached out to me to suggest some lip exercises to try with my baby to stretch her upper lip so that she can improve her latch, which I was like, oh wow, I didn't even know you could do that. So she gave me these exercises to start trying, and literally within a few days I could hear that she was intaking less air, because I guess it was stretching her lip out so that she wasn't, so rigid and so tight, and her latch wasn't a firm enough seal, if that makes sense. And so this OT, oh my gosh, she literally saved our lives, because she offered a free screening. She was relatively close by, so we started seeing her. And mind you, as new parents, we were also stressed, like trying to figure out how to take a baby out. It literally felt like packing for a big trip every time, because we just didn't know what was gonna happen, and she was so easily, it was like a ticking time bomb. Like, oh my gosh, is she gonna get set off and have a meltdown, and what do we do when she has a blowout, she spits up or whatever? But yeah, we thankfully were able to take her to the OT, and that's when the OT looked at her, gave her a full evaluation, and also was patiently answering our questions. And it was also her suggestion to look into a different type of bottle, and she mentioned an even flow bottle, because even flow has these bottles that are more narrow and that could fit her mouth better. And in the meantime, she also showed us exercises to do with her tongue too, because she also had a minor posterior tongue tie, which, going back to my breastfeeding video, I asked multiple nurses, multiple doctors and pediatricians, lactation consultants at the hospital, but also in their private practice, and also the chiropractor, and everybody said it's likely not related to her oral ties, because her upper lip tie was so minor and her posterior tongue tie was also so minor. But no, thank God, this OT said, oh no, there is some clicking and there is air intake, and so next time I'll bring a different kind of bottle and we can try it out. I did not have the patience for a different kind of bottle. I started experimenting with different bottles that we had at home from other people, but then also consulting AI to try to figure out what would be the best bottle now that we had all this information about what was likely going on and what her tongue ties were, and that was it was contributing to the reflux and the GERD. And so thankfully, AI actually suggested a specific kind of bottle, the Even Flow Balance Plus Standard. It's a mouthful, but there's so many different kinds of bottles, and I accidentally ordered the wrong kind because they're all also similar. But the Even Flow Balance Plus Standard, as well as a specific kind of pacifier, because I didn't know that also specific kinds of pacifiers work for different babies. And with her oral ties, the Nuke orthopedic pacifiers have been the best that she can actually hold in, because the other ones she just had trouble holding in. But the whole time we were like, is she just not liking the pacifier? Maybe she doesn't want the pacifier. It was actually because also her oral ties were not conducive to those other pacifiers that work for other babies. We tried Dr. Brown's, we tried Philips Avent, we tried all these different kinds, but the Nuke one was definitely the best. And so thank God we live in an age of AI, because that's how I identified that those would work the best. And I also consulted the OT, and she was like, oh yeah, that Even Flow type was the one I was going to recommend. Although I was also testing with like all these other bottles, thinking maybe the wide one will stretch her lip out and encourage her to, widen her lip and her mouth. But the OT confirmed, and also what we saw was the Even Flow one was smaller, and so she was able to actually wrap her mouth around it better. And I could also like manually like adjust her lips better on those ones, so that she did have like a stronger suck. And that, my friends, changed everything. That was the answer for us, because I also didn't want to. A lot of moms on these Facebook groups are like, oh, like just revise the ties, just release the ties, which is basically you have to do this surgical removal of the ties in their mouth. But my pediatrician was telling us, like, strongly recommending against it, especially because our baby's ties were so minor. She was like, don't put them through that process, it's so painful. And she just really didn't recommend it. And even the thought of putting my baby through surgery when she's only a few weeks old really freaked me out too. So thank God we were doing these exercises with her tongue, with her lips, also with the new bottle, and we still are managing her GERD with Pepcid. We're at 14 weeks now, and we're still on it, because there have been some instances where we forgot it and she was still freaking out and crying in pain. But the air intake problem was also contributing significantly to all of this, which we didn't know initially. I think at that point we were around week 7. Yeah, that's when things also started improving with her digestive system as well and her nervous system. Not completely, like it had significantly improved at 3 months, but around week 7, she was starting to show some real smiles, which was very, very hopeful and improved my mental health a lot, because it made a big difference to no longer be trying to like figure out what's wrong with a screaming potato of a newborn, but actually being like, oh my gosh, she's smiling. She's like a human with a personality, and you can kind of better start to tell what makes them happy or when they're unsettled or what they like and don't like. But in the meantime, we still had like diaper issues with all the poops on the hypoallergenic formula, and she spit up really easily because it is thinner, and so we were trying to thicken it with baby cereal that our pediatrician recommended, but it seemed like it was causing her even more like gas and gut issues, so we stopped to the baby cereal, which I should explain, it sometimes thickens it so that they don't spit up as much. But yeah, it felt like another one of those whack-a-mole things where we solved one thing, but then now we have to deal with another thing. And on top of that, hypoallergenic formula is very expensive. It is not cheap. So we were feeling like we're just throwing money down the drain, especially when she didn't finish, because we still couldn't figure out how much to feed her or not feed her, because she still oftentimes wasn't showing fullness cues. And yeah, it was just a lot. So anyway, after a few weeks of that, we consulted our pediatrician again and said, okay, we are seeing all these promising signs, and thankfully the bottle seemed to have helped significantly. We think that was one of the contributing things making the reflux so bad. And so we feel like we're ready to step down from the hypoallergenic formula, and hopefully she won't poop as much or have all these other problems due to the hypoallergenic formula. And our pediatrician basically suggested to choose a gentle formula, so that's what we tried. And that was another struggle, because transitioning formula, like I told you, is hard because their system needs to get used to it. And so we had a few days, because this time we didn't do cold turkey, we just transitioned like half and half by giving her half of the old formula, half of the new formula, and we just tried that to transition her. But she still was like grunting, fussing, uncomfortable for a few days, and at that point you don't know if it's because she can't tolerate the new formula or because she's just trying to adjust. We started having second guesses, and we're like, oh my gosh, maybe we should switch back again. But again, thank goodness we didn't, because she thankfully was able to fully adjust to the new formula that we are still on now. So yeah, that was just a huge long saga. I'm sure I'm missing so many details that my brain has already blocked out, or I just didn't remember to convey. So if you have any questions about reflux, if your baby has reflux or you're experiencing similar things, feel free to drop it in the comments. I'll try my best to answer or respond with the knowledge that I accumulated doing all this research on reflux. But yeah, at the end of the day, what I feel like I learned is it really just takes time, a lot of trial and error, and honestly like waiting it out oftentimes, because yeah, like the formula stuff, you don't know until about 2 weeks if they're fully transitioned. And if you're breastfeeding, it's the same thing. It takes time for things to get out of their system so that you know if it is something that you're eating that's causing these issues due to intolerance or allergy. And I will say at the 3-month mark, her digestive system and nervous system significantly have improved, and she is a completely different baby now compared to when she was a newborn. I constantly every day still tell my husband, oh my gosh, remember when she was a newborn? She's so different from when she was a newborn. Oh my gosh. But I remember when our pediatrician around maybe week 3 or week 4 told us, unfortunately, oftentimes it just takes time for babies to outgrow the reflux, and it usually takes around 3 months. I was like, are you kidding me? I don't even know if I can survive the end of week 3, let alone get to month 3. Like every day just felt like eternity. But yeah, here I am at month 3 looking back and being like, wow, we survived the hardest thing we've ever gone through. And I'm honestly still working through the PTSD from all of it, because it was just, I do not wish that upon anybody. But yeah, I just want to send a note of solidarity for any other parents going through something similar, or maybe other physical issues and ailments that make you honestly sad when you look at other people's babies and how easy they seem, how calm they are. Like, I went through all those emotions as well, but I am just so relieved that it's over with. And I honestly feel like I can handle a lot worse now, because my threshold is just so much higher. Because, people said, oh, week 6 to 8 is like peak fussiness. We didn't even see, we were like, she's been like this the whole time, so we didn't see any peak fussiness or crying. And actually, when we finally managed, we're able to get the Pepsid and the hypoallergenic formula and all that, and she started like regular crying and regular fussing, we were like, what? This is what people call fussing and crying. This is nothing that we can handle this. All right, I'm gonna end this here. I know it's already a lot, but I hope this gives you enough information if you're a soon-to-be parent or a new parent to kind of get ideas if you do run into reflux and GERD, like what could be going on, because I literally had zero idea about any of this coming into parenthood. And if I had known earlier, I probably would not have almost become mentally insane the way that I almost did. Okay, I think I can breathe better now. We'll see what happens, but it feels good to finally let that out. But I really hope this helps someone. And if you have any similar experiences, please share in the comments below, because I personally did not find any videos talking about this stuff in detail. And I understand why, because it's just so traumatic and hard. You just don't want to relive it by recounting it to somebody else. So hopefully by getting this out, my body is going to feel better and my mental health will continue to improve. All right, thanks so much for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe for more real-time, unfiltered, first-time motherhood content. See you guys.